Aaron Rodgers to the Rams? Guys, I think the rumors might actually be true. Matthew Stafford wants $50 million? 50 plus million dollars. Aaron Rodgers is looking for a new home, and he already has a home in Malibu. Just saying. Could he join the Rams' house in 2025? That is the question I'm going to explore in this video. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL off-season content, rumors, and news just like this. And let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Will Aaron Rodgers become a Los Angeles Ram? I know, it's kind of crazy, but it's definitely interesting, and there's enough smoke here that it very well could lead to fire. So, let's talk about it. I have some tweets for you and some discussion to follow with those tweets, okay? Let's begin with this. We've seen some connections start to pop up between the Los Angeles Rams, their coaching staff, and Aaron Rodgers. And whenever you have a quarterback that's been in the NFL for as long as Aaron Rodgers has, typically veteran quarterbacks want to go to teams that they're comfortable with. Typically. That was certainly the case with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. As soon as he got there, he tried to add every coach and every human and every wide receiver that he knew and that he played with, right? Now, when it comes to the Rams, they have a few connections to Aaron Rodgers. First, they just hired Alex Van Pelt. Alex Van Pelt, the Patriots offensive coordinator in 2024, was with the Cleveland Browns for a few seasons before that. I'm a Patriots fan, so I saw a lot of Alex Van Pelt. You probably didn't if you're a Rams fan because you didn't watch the Patriots. I don't blame you. The only reason to watch them was Drake May. Alex Van Pelt, he had his ups and downs with the Patriots. I honestly felt like he was one of the better coaches on the staff. So if you're wondering about Alex Van Pelt, from that perspective, he's a good quarterback coach. That's proven throughout his career. Good quarterback coach, well respected in that regard, did help develop Drake May this past season. And that is why Aaron Rodgers really likes him. If you look at Alex Van Pelt's career, he was with the Green Bay Packers, okay, for 4 years when Aaron Rodgers was there. He was the quarterback coach from, I believe, 2014 through 2017. He was actually the running back coach before that. In 2012 and 2013, he was the running back coach, oddly enough, despite being a quarterback himself in the NFL. So Van Pelt has experience as a play caller now in New England, as an offensive coordinator in Cleveland, as a quarterback coach, multiple destinations, but certainly has heavy ties with Aaron Rodgers. And I believe he is Aaron Rodgers' favorite quarterback coach that he's ever had. It would make sense that the first year that Alex Van Pelt was the quarterback coach, it was an MVP season for Aaron Rodgers and was a bit of a turnaround for his career as well. The Giants did hire Chad Hall, who is Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law, as their assistant quarterbacks coach. Very interesting, says Cameron DeSilva there in the tweet. Now, we're not going to talk about Stafford to the Giants, although that's a possibility. I think we do kind of have to explore Matthew Stafford, because if Rodgers is going to go to the Rams, Matthew Stafford has to want to leave the Rams, right? So let's pop back to the main camera for a second. Matthew Stafford could leave. Now, I feel like if he does leave, it's going to have to be to a place where he still feels comfortable that he can win. I don't think he's just going to go somewhere for the sake of money. Like, let's say the Giants. I think the Giants would have to give a great pitch for that to happen. Don't get me wrong, the Giants have some pieces on offense. Malik Neighbors, right? Tyrone Tracy in the backfield's pretty promising rookie. They got Wan'Dale Robinson, who's underrated. Andrew Thomas at left tackle. Brian Daboll, the play caller and offensive coach. They've got a good front seven on defense. There's things that you like there, but still, they have not had a lot of success lately. I could see maybe a team like Pittsburgh lining up for Stafford, where they have a strong defense. They have a good infrastructure. They're a winning franchise. They've got a great coach. The offense does have a good, proven offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, despite maybe a lack of receivers. But Stafford could maybe find his way onto that team, bring along Cooper Kupp or something like that, and work it out, right? So a team like the Steelers to me would make sense. But there's not a lot of teams. Like, I don't see Stafford going to the Jets. I think it would have to take a spectacular pitch from Pete Carroll and Tom Brady to get him to go to the Raiders. Like, where are the possible destinations? And I did break that down in a separate video if you guys want to check that out in depth. All my possible destinations for Matthew Stafford if that does happen. A lot of people still think he'll go to the Rams and stay with the Rams. And it does make sense that he would stay with the Rams, right? Like, they've been so good lately. The last 2 years, they've surged at the end of the season and they became a dangerous threat at the end of the season. And they fell short to the Super Bowl champs, just barely to the Philadelphia Eagles in the snow, on the road. And this is a young defense on the rise. And yes, Cooper's leaving and all that stuff, but you guys can figure that out. Like, you look at the Rams right now, they only have a couple free agents they really got to deal with. They got to deal with their left tackle, who's a young, promising, in his prime player. Maybe the Patriots snatch him or something like that, I'm hoping. But the Rams could easily keep him given the amount of cap space they have. They have $44 million. So that's main priority number one. Akilla Witherspoon at corner played very admirably in the back end. Maybe they keep him. But there's not many players out there that the Rams really, on their own roster, they need to take care of. So taking care of Stafford very well is within their reach. I don't really feel like it's that crazy. That being said, I do think the Rams do want to look at this team and this franchise and say, we've got a young core and a young roster. What if we could trade Stafford now, not extend Stafford, maybe get out from under Stafford before it's too late, right? Before he does fall off, before he does get injured. Maybe there is concern there. Get rid of him, get a high second round pick from the Giants, get some extra cap room, build a team with a cheap quarterback or a young quarterback, and continue to build this roster in sort of a Niner-like fashion, right? That's how Shanahan has thrived with those cheaper quarterbacks. Now they're kind of coming up with Brock Purdy, but McVay, Shanahan, they kind of have that similar thought, I feel like, where they're both offensive coaches, and I feel like they feel they could take any quarterback and make them successful. There's another veteran quarterback out there, as we'll continue to discuss Aaron Rodgers here, that could work as well. Like, Kirk Cousins is an alternative. If you guys want me to break down Kirk Cousins to the Rams, that could also be an alternative option for the Rams if they do lose Stafford. But just breaking down Stafford very quickly, I feel like was great late last season, has been a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the NFL. Pretty much every season he's been healthy with the Rams. And I feel like without him, they don't win that Super Bowl. How much does that really matter to them going forward? I'm not sure. I feel like the Rams are willing to move on. Stafford's willing to move on. It feels like Stafford wants the money. So, hey, he's got a right to do that. Now, let's check back in with Aaron Rodgers and these tweets. All right, so this is really interesting. I saw this. Bleacher Report reported, shout out Bleacher Report, they reported on January 31st, 2021, okay, 4:56 p.m. Pacific time, that the Rams made a run at Aaron Rodgers, but the Packers were adamant they weren't going to trade him. Okay, this was reported by the LA Times or something. So the Rams clearly were interested in Aaron Rodgers at one time, right before they got Matthew Stafford. Is that correct? Or am I crazy? Yeah, right before they got Matthew Stafford, right? Because Aaron Rodgers, so yeah, that was the 2020 season. This is early 2021. So yes, that's before they got Matthew Stafford. So the Rams did make a run at Aaron Rodgers right after his first of back-to-back seasons after he lost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. So it's clear that McVay was interested. Sean McVay had a thing for Aaron Rodgers at one point. And you can even see them in my picture, I'm going to put, the thumbnail, Aaron Rodgers, Sean McVay, seem very, very good with each other. I mean, have the vibe together, smiles together, okay? And they have some connections just within the staff of their schemes. Sean McVay, very close with who? Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur, the former head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, well, multiple NFC championship appearances, right? Multiple MVPs for Aaron Rodgers. We do know that Aaron is a little bit of a narcissist, so that does matter to him. And of course, Mike LaFleur is the Rams offensive coordinator. Now, Mike LaFleur, oddly enough, didn't ever coach Aaron Rodgers, if I'm not mistaken, but just the fact that Matt and Mike are brothers, Mike is on the staff of Sean McVay, Aaron Rodgers probably is looking at that and saying, not only is Sean there, who I know is brilliant and I probably have a lot of respect for, and I seem to have, smiles with every once in a while, a good exchange, we also have Mike LaFleur, who probably has an inkling about the type of offense that the Packers ran with Aaron Rodgers that allowed him to win 2 MVPs and play at the peak of the NFL. Not that long ago, by the way, right? So there's that connection on top of things, right? And then you kind of start to attack the coaching staff. So you've got Alex Van Pelt, who's going to be some sort of consultant for the Rams. Quarterback coach of Aaron Rodgers formerly. You've got Mike LaFleur, connected to Matt LaFleur, connected to Sean McVay. Then you've got Rob Calabrese, I believe is how you properly pronounce his Italian last name. Shout out. Quarterback coach of the Los Angeles Rams, who worked with the Jets from 2021 through 2023. Now, that being said, there was only 1 year of overlap where Aaron Rodgers was injured, but still a familiar face working with quarterbacks. Rodgers was also close with Zach Wilson with New York, and Calabrese was also the quarterback coach of Zach Wilson. So I feel like there could be a connection there as well, or at least some sort of familiarity between Aaron Rodgers in the Jets building, in the Packers building, and now with the Rams. There seems to be a lot of connections here, and those connections are tied to the base scheme that Aaron Rodgers has always been a part of throughout his NFL career, whether it be with the Jets or be with the Rams, okay? Hayden Winks here of Underdog Fantasy did tweet about Albert Breer saying that Stafford had been speaking with teams for 2 weeks. And Winks is kind of taking this as if Stafford is going to be gone. He says likely gone. Winks is a smart guy, very good with fantasy content over on Underdog Fantasy. Shout out to him. He's usually pretty good with this stuff, just like, I don't think he's an insider or anything like that, but I do think he is pretty smart. So I kind of, when he says something like that, I kind of perk up a little bit. Albert Breer does have sources across the NFL, so it's interesting just piecing those things together that Stafford has been talking to teams for 2 weeks. That means he is legitimately interested in potentially moving on. He's legitimately looking for options. He's legitimately looking at teams and taking it seriously, right? So there is something there. And Winks does say, I wonder if Rodgers hasn't retired yet, hoping he can sign with the Rams for half the money. Aaron Rodgers plus a second-round pick plus $30 million if you're the Rams. That would be why you would do it if you're the Rams. Sure, you might be regressing at quarterback. You might be getting even older at quarterback. You might be getting even less mobile at quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers was in a pretty bad situation with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers definitely played better than I feel like the media has portrayed, and we'll get into that in a little bit. If Rams fans are curious, stick around, guys. We'll get into the comparison between Stafford last season and Aaron Rodgers statistically last season. It's actually a lot closer than you would think. Now, I would say Aaron Rodgers is not as good as Matthew Stafford. I would say Stafford is a much better quarterback at this point. That being said, Rodgers still has a lot left in his game from an arm strength standpoint, from a touch and accuracy standpoint, and certainly from a mental standpoint. There are certain limitations in his game, like mobility, that I do think need to be masked. But I feel like the Rams have already been doing that for Stafford, which makes things transferable. And like I said, I feel like the offense that the Rams run, the connections to the guys that have worked with Rodgers would understand what he does best. And Rodgers is one of the more mentally, calculated quarterbacks, cerebral quarterbacks in the game at his age, even of all time. So I would say that that's very important to him, okay? So moving on to the final tweet here, where we're just looking at odds. And I don't even know who this guy is, but I was just looking for tweets about Aaron Rodgers to the Rams, and he made an interesting observation. So shout out to Maddie here. He says the Rams' odds of getting Aaron Rodgers on 2/17/25, so February the 17th, 2025, was plus 700, okay? Compare that to last Thursday, the 20th. It went down to plus 300. And today, on the 24th, that is right now today, plus 190. So it has dropped considerably in a week's time, from 700 to 190. And it was already seeing significant movement when the rumors were pretty light on the end of Aaron Rodgers to the Rams, right? That's a real proof right there. Rams plus 190. Next team is the Raiders, plus 350. Plus 350 to the Steelers. Those teams all make sense in my opinion, right? The Rams being first though, and specifically being under plus 200 is kind of interesting in my opinion. That's a pretty decent favorite. So that's a pretty good observation. And finally, discussing the comparison between Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, okay? So I have this sorted in terms of big-time throws. This is Pro Football Focus's premium stats, okay? You guys are getting the exclusive here on the Bottom Line View. So you see at number 10, Aaron Rodgers, okay? And you see at number 11, it's Matthew Stafford, all right? So let's just look through their statistics, okay? So 643 dropbacks for Aaron Rodgers, 628 for Stafford, all right? Rodgers had more completions, okay? Less completions, 385, 368, okay? Slightly less attempts, 4. Completion percentage for Stafford was 2.5% better. Yards, 400 yards better for Matthew Stafford, okay? That being said, right, look at the games. Rodgers played one less game this season than Matthew Stafford. This is including the postseason, okay? Yards per attempt, Aaron Rodgers, that was a big thing. Very low, 6.7. He had a lot of plays where he was throwing the ball quick to running backs. And I think that's one area that you need to convince Aaron Rodgers if you want him in your offense to hold the ball a tad longer. He was a little bit quick trigger in his offense. A lot of that did have to do with the imploding offensive line. Okay, yards per attempt is an area that I think needs to improve for Rodgers in his game next year. That being said, okay, let's look even closer at this. Okay, Rodgers had more touchdowns despite less games, 28 to 24. He did have more interceptions, 11 to 8, but not like a considerable amount, right? Like 28 to 11, still pretty good touchdown interception ratio. He also, according to PFF at least, graded better, 77.8 to 74.7, okay? He also had a better running grade, 71.9 compared to 57. He had more big-time throws, or at least tied, 26 to 26, and the same amount of big-time throw percentage, 4.2 to 4.2. Big-time throws, guys, are stats that, if you want to read the key, big-time throws are a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further down the field and or into a tighter window. It's one of my favorite stats in the NFL right now. I think it really indicates high-end quarterback play. Okay, turnover-worthy plays is where it gets interesting. Stafford's a lot more risky with the ball, sometimes in a good way, but sometimes in a bad way. 25 turnover-worthy plays and only one more big-time throw, while Rodgers had 26 big-time throws and only 12 turnover-worthy plays. One thing that Rodgers will typically give you, especially in an offense as refined as the Rams and has probably just a better overall scheme than the Jets did last year, is he won't turn it over. Despite being a little bit more conservative than Stafford for sure, he won't put the ball in harm's way. That turnover-worthy play percentage of 1.8 was one of the best in the NFL. If you look at it, okay, from, minimum dropbacks, 20%. Okay, we had Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Bo Nix, Aaron Rodgers. Okay, Aaron Rodgers was 5th in the NFL in turnover-worthy play percentage. Okay, that's pretty good. Then you look at drops. He had the most drops in the NFL, 39. Stafford had 16. He had almost one of the highest drop percentages, right? He had a 9.6 drop percentage. He also was unlucky with 8 batted passes. Throwaways, typically I'm kind of expecting to see him up on the list, but they were actually identical, which is interesting. Okay. And pressure to sack percentage was a little bit higher this year for Rodgers. So you definitely need to protect him a little bit more. His time to throw, though, was actually longer than Stafford. Fascinating enough, because I wouldn't have predicted that. So, just the point being, and their rating was 5 points difference, but both in the 90s. So the point being here is that Aaron Rodgers was actually not as bad as you would think last year. He was actually decent. He took a lot of heat because he didn't live up to MVP expectations. But that doesn't mean that Aaron Rodgers is completely washed. I will say that. And take that from a Patriots fan, and take that from a Tom Brady fan. Take that from a guy that I've never been like the biggest Rodgers fan. I've been in and out on him. I've liked him at times. I've disliked him at other times. But honestly, I'm rooting for him because I want him to come back. I want him to play well, and I want him to go out in style. And I think that would be pretty cool with the Rams. I'd also be down. I love Matthew Stafford. I'd be down for Stafford to stick around with the Rams, but I'd also be down for Stafford to try something different. I'd be open to a team like the Steelers. I'd be pumped if he went to the Raiders because I want to see the Raiders do well. But even the Giants having a good football team for once would be kind of captivating. So you guys let me know. Plus, Rams fans, you know that Aaron Rodgers would bring along Devontae Adams. Him with Puka Nacua, that'd be pretty sweet. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this rumor. You think it's real? You think it's false? Do you think it's going to happen? It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.